Howdy, my fellow Americans. This is T-Pain USA. Welcome to another episode of a Really American T-Cast. Now, one time or another, we've all heard the old Chinese curse, "May you live in interesting times." And since an uneducated electorate with serious long-term memory issues re-elected the worst president in American history, a convicted felon no less, who promised to be a dictator on day one, well, it's safe to say we're living in those interesting times those Chinese folks were talking about. And folks, if these ain't them, they'll do until the really interesting times get here. So come in off the ledge or that bridge railing you're standing on and let T-Pain calm you down a little bit. And as you know, it's best to break things down into nice little bite-sized pieces, like little chicken nuggets for the soul. So here we go with 7 easy steps to survive Trump 2.0. So let's just dive in, shall we? Remember during Trump's first term how we'd sit up late at night, constantly refreshing our phones, hoping there'd be a Trump indictment, or at least some bombshell that would end the Trump presidency? Or worse, we'd be constantly doom scrolling to see if we still had a functional democracy. Well, the good news is, folks, we don't have to do that anymore because our democracy is officially dysfunctional. In case you missed it, Trump declared himself king this week, and the media didn't even blink. They have let Trump's empty threats silence them into normalizing America's decline into authoritarianism. So the quicker we make peace with this unsettling reality, the quicker we can get in the frame of mind it will take to do something about it. So it's time to stop waiting on the cavalry, because T-Pain's got news for you. They ain't coming. The norms didn't stop Trump. The law didn't stop Trump. Courts didn't stop Trump. Even the voters didn't stop Trump. Well, then who's left, T-Pain, you ask? Me, and you, and you, and you back there in the back. Folks, take comfort in this. There's a lot of us out there. And to torture a pogoism, we have met the cavalry, and they is us. So what do? Move on to step 2. Do you ever feel like you're constantly drinking from a fire hose of lies, disinformation, and cruelty? That's because this administration is doing exactly that. Now, I know it's hard to hear the word Trump and the word strategy in the same sentence, but that's exactly Trump's strategy. Now, we can argue all day long if Trump is a sociopathic psychopath or a psychopathic sociopath. Well, actually, he's both. And that's part of the key to dealing with him. You see, we can't waste all our emotional currency on battling everything that spews out of his little baby mouth. Take, for example, Trump claiming to have renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. Remember George Bush's freedom fries? Well, this ain't no different than that. And how long did that last? Trump wants us to waste our time and energy on this silliness rather than making a fuss over old Elmo coming after our Social Security and our Medicare. Besides, before you know it, Trump's going to be calling it the Gulf of Putin anyway. You know, you've only got so much sanity, so don't waste it on the wrong things. Ask yourself, what is truly important to me and the preservation of our democracy? And then focus on that. This one goes hand in hand with step number 2. We ain't buying Greenland, and Canada will never be our 51st state. But that's what Trump wants us fighting over like cats and poodles while he pillages the coffers of the United States government. Now, some of you young'uns might not know much about the great boxer Muhammad Ali. He was once the mighty heavyweight champion of the world, but he was getting older, and he was about to fight a much younger, much stronger George Foreman. During the early rounds of that big fight, Ali would taunt Foreman and then cover up while Foreman punched himself silly. And Ali just sat there waiting for Foreman to make a mistake. And then once Foreman was all punched out, Ali put him away. And that's exactly what Trump's trying to do to us, the old rope-a-dope. But if there's any dope in this story, it's this guy. And now we know what he's up to, and we can counter it. All we got to do is turn the tables on Trump and do what Ali did to Foreman. beat him with taunts like, "Is that all you got? Or can't you punch any harder than that, Donald?" T-Pain will never forget what his daddy used to say. T-Pain, he'd say, "The best way to beat a fool is to keep him talking." Now, if you remember the old days on Twitter, you could really rile up them MAGAs and conservatives by pointing out their hypocrisy. But them days is long gone, because Trump taught them that shame is a weakness and to embrace their immorality. You see, it's impossible to shame a person that has no shame. And as a matter of fact, they consider hypocrisy their very own superpower. So T-Pain, you ask, how do we deal with people that lie with impunity? How do you cope with folks that only value winning at all cost? Well, there's your answer. Winning and losing. Now, Trump and MAGA, they're immoral, but they're also incompetent. And there's going to be a lot of losses to celebrate. You want to take a MAGA down a couple of notches? Attack their egos, because that's the real source of their motivation. Instead of them demoralizing us, use every failure to demoralize them. After all, it's the only language they understand. Now, the other day, T-Pain and She-Pain was driving through Oklahoma. And if you've driven through Oklahoma, you know there ain't much to do except maybe read the road signs to pass the time. Well, actually, about 15 years ago, I saw this sign in California. And it really didn't register until I saw a similar sign in Oklahoma the other day. This is what happens when Republicans manage a state's education system. But now, there was this other sign that T-Pain saw that got him to thinking. And it said, "Don't drive into smoke." In a way, it's kind of silly you got to convey such a simple tidbit of common sense. But there's a powerful lesson in this simple warning. I believe there's no greater teacher than nature, so let's take a lesson from the bees. No. This ain't going to be that awkward talk you've been putting off with your kids. Imagine it's 6,000 years ago, and you're wandering through the woods, and you're powerful hungry. Then you spy a big old beehive hanging on this low limb. Seized by a hangry rage, you plunge your hand into that hive to claim its sweet treasure, but you end up running to the nearest creek with 30,000 bees in hot pursuit. But then about 3100 BC, some smart feller in Egypt figured out if you introduce some smoke into a beehive, it confused the bees and made them scared to fly. Why, just a few puffs of smoke, and the beekeeper could rob the bees of all the fruits of their labor without as much as a single sting. So the moral is easy. Stop falling for all the smoky lies and hazy taunts Trump is making. That's only meant to confuse and demoralize you. And if I wasn't wearing these glasses right now, you'd see me winking and say, avoid the smoke, be ready to fly, and keep your stingers sharp. Rather than attacking MAGA with a bunch of facts and figures like us liberal know-it-alls are prone to do, think more about planting seeds of doubt that Trump's incompetency and arrogance will eventually water, germinate, and bring to full blossom. Rest assured, his ill-fated actions will eventually hit MAGA in their respective pocketbooks. So when you talk with your MAGA neighbors and friends, instead of preaching, try things like, I was hoping old Trump might have kept his promise to lower the price of groceries, but it sure is tough on us little folks, isn't it? Or maybe try a little humor to plant the seed. I was hoping to buy a carton of eggs, but my banker won't let me take out a second mortgage. Trust old T-Pain on this. It'll mean more when they come to realize it for themselves. Ultimately, Americans vote with their pocketbooks. You don't like Jeff Bezos kissing Trump's ring? Well, stop shopping on Amazon. Did Walmart make you mad when they dropped their DEI policies, but Costco didn't? Easy peasy. Cancel your Sam's membership and get you a Costco card. Let your money do the talking, and the big corporations will listen. Lastly, don't agonize. Organize. They want you to feel alone, without control, and helpless. And the best way to cure that is with the support of others. And there's an old Bible verse that says that if one can put 1,000 to flight, that two can put 10,000 to flight. We're stronger together than apart, so find like-minded people and stay in touch. And there's a million different ways of doing that. Social media platforms like X and Blue Sky and Facebook are just crawling with folks that oppose the dark path America's chosen. Churches that actually promote the teachings of Jesus are full of people fed up with Trump's lasciviousness. And with groceries and gas prices going through the roof, it won't be hard to make disciples down at Piggly Wiggly or Quick Trip. So until that dark day when Trump walks into the National Archives and uses the United States Constitution to wipe his royal hiney, we should be exercising our most basic constitutional right for peaceful assembly. Look in the back of your closets, brothers and sisters. Find your marching shoes and put on a new set of laces, because we need to take to the streets and let our voices be heard. Now, it won't be easy, and it won't happen overnight. But nothing worth having comes without struggle. So T-Pain's going to leave you with this short invocation. Be steadfast. Be peaceful. Be civil. But be loud. T-Pain out.